All right, you heard that great story from the Cajun Cannon, Bobby Hebert, on Morten Andersen's podcast, which is the Great Dane Nation, presented by VegasInsider.com. You can follow them on Twitter, and you can follow Morten Andersen on Twitter, who is a Hall of Famer, NFL Hall of Famer, Pro Football Hall of Famer, New Orleans Saints Hall of Famer, and one of the greatest to ever do it at the elite level. And now, as we said, he's got a podcast that you could subscribe to. And he's joining us here on Off the Bench, ESPN Baton Rouge, New Orleans, and Alexandria. Morten, good morning. Thank you for your time.
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys. It's always fun to talk to the Hebert clan. Had a blast with Bobby, T-Bob, as you know. He's got the gift of gab like you. And, I told him on his show last night on WWL, I said I asked him 3 questions, and an hour and a half later, we're still there.
Yeah, so we just played the Chauncey Gardner-Johnson clip, which was really good, man. And you can just hear look, I said it, look, my dad likes very few people in this world, right? Y'all two have always kind of been best friends. So it's really cool. Everybody should check out that pod. Because that's about as open as you're ever going to find the Cannon. How was it getting to record? I mean, y'all have been to battle on the football field so many times together. Now here you're both in like the media game.
This was so easy. It was a layup, to be honest with you, T-Bob. I mean, we do it through Squadcast, so the sound is good, you know. And the important thing for me was to be able to see Bobby J when I was talking to him, because he's so animated, and also I could get a word in when he took a breath. You know what I'm saying? He's really, what I love about your dad, what I love about Bobby is that he keeps it real, you know, and if you say something he doesn't agree with, he's going to contest it.
Yeah. And
he's going to come with his opinion, and he's going to back it up with whatever facts that he feels he has. And most of the time he's right. I mean, and that's why he's so wildly successful. Which I talk about at the end of my podcast. I have this thing called a game winner, where I kind of take takeaways from what I learned from my guest. And one of the big themes for me with Bobby is that he keeps it real. His faith is up front, especially, you know, during this time and your personal tragedy with your grandfather. So he keeps it real, and family and loyalty and a sense of community and heritage is very important to your dad. And I know it is to you too.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, he's always been obsessed with family history and chasing back the genealogical roots of the North American Heberts all the way back to Antoine and Etienne Hebert. Y'all, some very touching stuff at the beginning of the pod between you and my father discussing some stories about my grandfather. Speaking of stories, do you have a story for maybe y'all Saints or Falcons playing day? That I guess is safe for radio. Do you have a story about you in the Cannon or anything that stands out in your mind that you think people would like?
One from the island.
Bobby was famous for hanging around the locker room after the games. He'd be the last one to leave, man. He took forever, and he'd always be naked, you know. And I'll keep it PG, but you know, we know the term booty stool. He was famous for just sitting there after the shower, lingering. And I mean, there are reporters in there, and he's not in any way concerned about covering up or whatever, because he feels like that's his domain. You know what I mean? And you're in his space, so whatever, and you take it or leave it. So there were many interviews where I saw, you know, let me just put it this way: interesting scenarios that were happening around his locker, because he just didn't care that way. And he just back in the 80s and it was a different time. The money was less, obviously, but he was one of the biggest paid guys, as we talk about, when he came from the USFL. You know, Montana, I think, was the top guy at $770, $765, and here's Bobby making $1.2 million to sign with the Saints. So it was a huge deal back then, and he sure did make a difference for us when he came and played. I mean, it was a huge uptick in our performance.
Morten Andersen, Pro Football Hall of Fame kicker. He is the host of the Great Dane Nation podcast presented by Vegas Insider that you can follow on Twitter at Great Dane Nation. Football has changed a lot since you've left the game, but I guess the element of kicking has not, right? When you watch the game, do you still see the same emphasis put on that part of football when so many things are different around it?
But we know that many games, and I don't know the percentages, are won by 3 points or less. So you just know by virtue of that happening that the field goal kicking is important. The guys that are doing it now, when the guys that are doing it now are so good. I mean, it's so. I mean, I saw the guy from Carolina, Sly, I think his name is.
Mm-hmm.
Lining up for, a
67, yeah, it was 67 the other day.
67 yarder. That was unheard of back in the day. I mean, if I had a sniff at a 60, that was a big deal, and that was my longest. So, but now guys are just bombing. Like today's 50 is like the old 40.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And today's 60 is like the old 50.
Mm.
Guys with regularity are making 60-yarders, and I said this on my pod some weeks back. I think we're going to see a 70-yard field goal.
Wow.
I think we're going to see it.
So
we may see it at the college level.
Yeah.
So that's lining up. You would be kicking from your own 40-yard line, trying to make it to the uprights. Oh,
it would be easier to do a 180 and kick it the other way.
Morten.
Yeah.
So right before we came on, we played the Mike Thomas story, right, with CD Deuce kind of whooping up on him in the locker room from the pod.
Yeah.
And Todd Jones in the chat, he wanted to ask you, have you ever been in a locker room fight?
No, but I've been intimidated by guys, and basically what I did, preservation, I ran. I'm going to be honest with you. I was one of those small. I mean, I was big for a kicker, but when you think 6'2", 225 versus a 6'8", 325, you kind of know the outcome unless you're a black belt. Now, I'm not a black belt. Now, I could have used my left shoe, my left boot to put it where the sun doesn't shine a couple of times. But, I'm a lover, not a fighter. I'm like Ringo Starr, man. I'm a lover, not a fighter. And I used words, to get out of trouble. And if all else failed, I just started talking Danish. Like I didn't understand.
Who scared you? Who scared you the most? Like who were you like? Oh my God, I got to get out of here.
We had a guy named Tony Elliott. I don't believe he's alive anymore, but Tony Elliott was a defensive player. He was big. He was intimidating, and and he wasn't the smartest either. So that was a bad combination. Aggressiveness and stupidity kind of mixed into one big gumbo. So I just steered clear of him. His eyes kind of said it all to me that he was. There was a reason they put him on the line of scrimmage to get to the quarterback. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Talking to Morten Andersen.
Kind of steered clear to him.
Hall of Fame kicker. Check out the Great Dane Nation podcast. Morten, obviously everybody knows you from your time with the Saints, with the Falcons. You went on to kick forever, Giants, Chiefs, Vikings. So when you've been in the league that long, you've been around, you've seen it from every angle. Like, how do you watch the NFL nowadays? Do you have rooting interests? Or are you just interested in the game? Like, how do you spend a Sunday?
Well, number one, I'm a fan because I think the guys are so good. The game is a passing game. It wasn't that way back in the 80s. We ran the ball a lot more. So what I think is I do follow the game quite a bit. I think what's intriguing with the pro game, and even at the college level, I mean, you got the quarterback position has become so much more dominant, so much more important to get the right guy at that position and then build your team. I mean, you look at Baltimore, you look at Kansas City, you look what Russell Wilson's doing in Seattle, and then you look what Breeze is doing and Brady's doing in New Orleans and Tampa Bay. Two different styles, two different types of quarterback. But I do think the future is that more mobile quarterback. Although a pocket passer, you got Rodgers in Green Bay doing it at a very high level. But that running quarterback that gives you more options, because as a defense you can defend the play that they're calling and how they line up, but it's how they wind up. And when you have a mobile quarterback, that dude's going to freelance, and you can't scheme for that.
Yeah.
What Mahomes is doing. How do you scheme for him looking right and throwing a sidearm Kenny Stapler-like pass to the left without looking? How do you scheme that? You can't. So I'm very intrigued with that. I'm just intrigued with how the game has developed over the years and how physical, how incredible these athletes are, how high they can jump, how they can make catches that you think there's no way that dude's going to catch that with 2 feet in bounds. He does, and the quarterback delivers it in a spot where the guy's covered. I mean, he's covered. He's draped by a defensive back and still makes the catch. You know, I do think the DB's kind of getting not a fair shake because you can't even blow on a guy anymore.
Yeah.
And they throw a flag, you know. So there's some things I'd like them to just play football a little bit more and not kill it with the flags.
There you go. Even the kicker's saying that.
Our video producer right now is showing some of your retro kicks, some of your game winners, some of your high moments during New Orleans. If I gave you one kick today, what would be the limit? What would be the yardage limit that you could hit it from?
The old extra point.
There you go.
What's that? 20 yards?
It's 20 yards.
Hey, Morten. So Danny, go ahead and bring up the picture. I know we've discussed this in the past, but okay, so we're live on YouTube right now, Morten. And so I know you can't see this.
I'm not looking at that, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine because you'll know the picture that I'm talking about. And while you may not have been, you know, like you said, the most jacked individual as a kicker, you may have been the sexiest kicker in the NFL. And if you're looking right now, I'm looking at an old picture. It looks like it's in the 80s. You've got some shorts on. You got a mesh crop top. You got a beautiful mullet. You're kind of hitting this sexy lean with the hip out. Give us the genesis of this picture and how it came about.
All right, so a buddy of mine, Bob Winston, and a lady, we formed a promotions company called We Three Promotions because it was 3 of us, very ingenious. And we said, now what are we going to do? We need a product. So Morten, we're making a poster of you. I go, why? So I was vain enough to think that, that's going to fly. So we got a photographer, man, and he painted that thing up pretty good. I got eyeliner on there, man. I got the whole thing. They did. It was all a setup, a stage, photo shoot. And, long story short, we sold almost 18,000 of those.
Hey, there we go.
Damn right you did.
There we go, dude.
Damn right you did. Great Dane.
So, hey, man, 18,000. So I got a stack of them if you guys need any.
Oh, yes. Please send some.
I'd love to have one of those signed for the man cave. That would be unbelievable, dude.
I'll be happy. We'll do that when we hang up. T-Bob, send me your address. I'll send you a couple of them.
Absolutely.
Okay,
I got you.
For the crew.
Morten, I really can't thank you enough, man. Check out, and obviously just thank you for everything, really, my entire life.
You're the best. You're the best, man.
Check out the Great Dane Nation podcast. It is weekly, like we said. Interviews like Archie Manning, Joe Namath, Ronnie Lott, Chris Carter, Dick Butkus, Jim Kelly, Terrell Davis, Franco Harris, Trent Green.
Wow.
The Cajun Cannons on the crew this week on this week's episode.
Youngblood next week.
Okay, there you go, dude.
Damn.
So Great Dane Nation on Twitter, Great Dane Nation VI on Instagram. Check him out, Morten. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Man.
Thank you, Morten.
Yeah, Spotify, Apple Music, we're everywhere, man.
Hell yeah.
Just like you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks. See ya.
All right, there's
Later.
the Great Dane. We are way long. We'll close it out next.
Off the bench with Kalana and T-Bob.